Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the show. It's all about favorite Canadian bands. We did the American bands recently. We also did the UK bands. Today, it's all about the Great White North up in Canada. And to help me along in this endeavor, we've got Chad Hutchinson is here. What's going on, my friend?
Not much. How's it going, eh?
It's going good. It's all about Canada today.
All a boot and a boot.
All about the boot. So,
And we're doing this during the playoffs. Hopefully the Leafs or the Jets will take the cup. I can't root for the Oilers. I don't like Connor McDavid, but I'm all for the Canadian teams winning it this year otherwise.
gotcha. It just
Let's
seems
go.
to be like, I mean, I don't follow hockey anymore, but it just seems to me that Canadian teams are always pretty good, right? For the most part.
Yeah, it's they a long the Canada as a country has a long drought for the cup, so they're
Oh,
due,
really?
way overdue.
Shows you how
Yeah,
much I know. And everybody always talks about the Canadian teams, though. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. It's like
yeah, yeah.
a lot of the friends who I have who follow hockey, they're always talking about the Canadian teams. So it's like this particular episode has kind of morphed and changed a bit over the last couple of months. Originally, we were gonna do like a just a complete overview of like the Canadian music scene and not talk about Rush, because of course we always talk about Rush. We love Rush. And then like the last couple of weeks, we're like, let's just do a straight our favorite 10 artists from Canada, kind of like what I did with the American and the UK show. And that's kind of what we're doing. So we've each picked out our favorite 10. And yes, we are including Rush here. So we will talk about Rush once again, because how can we not talk about Rush, right? We have to.
Of course.
So yeah, and I don't know what Chad's picked. He might know what some of mine are because we're kind of going off of like a shared spreadsheet that we've been working off of.
I've hidden your columns. Everything's safe.
Okay, cool. I figured maybe I'll surprise you with a couple of these, maybe not. I don't know. Since we have 10, let's go three, 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 and then we'll do our final pick at the end, and we'll talk about that trio that we always talk about at the end. So
Sounds good.
kick us off with your 10, 9, and 8.
All right, at number 10, a lesser known progressive rock band from featuring the late great Guy LeBlanc, who ended up in Camel at one point,
Yeah.
and that would be Nathan Mall. Um, the choice from them is their second album, Clever Use of Shadows, just a blazing album of prog rock, synth and guitar led progressive rock. They were actually booked for the very first Nearfest because Phineas Gage, who was the Chris Busby's offshoot of Eklund, his offshoot from Eklund, had to cancel last minute. And Ken Golden actually suggested, I've got this hot new band called Nathan Mall, just got this album in, you should check it out. And Rob LaDuca and I were blown away by it. And we put out an invite, and these guys came and they destroyed
Yeah, it was
on a
very
Sunday
cool.
morning. And that's pretty much where the Sunday morning prog church kind of term came from, because Nathan Mall woke everybody up out of their hangovers that morning. So
Yeah,
if
that,
you
that
don't
was
know these
quite the
guys,
quite the
this is yeah, like I said, Guy LeBlanc's no longer with us. He's a wonderful man, but this is also well out of print, so it could be tough to find, but it is worth a search.
I still have mine. And here's a little known fact. The first album review I ever wrote for the Sea of Tranquility magazine was that album.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And the first album was good too. It wasn't as good as this one, but it was
Yeah.
quite good.
Yeah, it's quite good. And also, the first guy I ever interviewed was Guy LeBlanc. See
That's
that?
that's some pretty good history right there.
Yeah, right there. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Cool. Great choice.
All right, number nine, another Nearfest alum actually would be FM,
Oh, yeah.
and they have a shorter catalog. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven albums, I guess, if you count the 2015 Transformation, which I never heard that one. But Black Noise is the classic. Um, Other ones are solid, they're good, but none of them are quite as good as this one. Um, Great trio originally. It was Nash the Slash, Marty Deller, great guy, great drummer, and Cam Hawkins on keyboards and vocals. They were great guys to work with. Put on a great set. They kind of surprised everybody by being on the bill that year, and a lot of people were just thrilled to finally be able to see this band. So sort of a legendary, maybe second or third tier prog band. That's not a knock. That's just where they live. Um, and another one very worth checking out. More on the symphonic, space rocky kind of side of things. But yeah, FM at number 9.
Very
And
cool.
then number 8, we're going to move over to the French side, and we're going to go with the amazing Myriador. Now, these guys, very quirky. Most of their catalogs on the Cuneiform Records, out of Maryland. Um, but you know, quirky, but somehow strangely accessible. Um, they are weird, but they're fun. Again, super nice people. It's really hard to pick an album from them. Um, I almost picked the Elastic Juggling because that was the first one I heard probably in '96. But I picked Avanti because this is the first one where they started to go a little bit more long form. And these longer compositions just had a slightly different feel, and they weren't quite as jagged quirky, but they were still quirky. Um, even the album before it was great, Parade, which was actually a double disc, and their performance from Nearfest 2002 was a second disc. But if you a little like a little whack in your step, uh, Myriador is definitely a band to check out. Phenomenal, phenomenal band from Canada.
Cool. Yeah, that's and they were so good at Nearfest.
Oh yeah,
Like, didn't they play? Didn't they play
they played
one
twice.
twice? Because they played at the it was a Friday or Saturday night, like in one of the bars in town in Trenton, right? Didn't they play in Trenton once also?
Was that Trenton? Yeah, maybe it was.
Well, I lose track. I went
Well,
to
they played. Well, Trenton. No, it
played
couldn't
on
have
the
been.
main stage, but they also played like in town. I thought one night it was Myriador and another band.
Geez, I'd have to look that up because
Yeah, I don't remember now.
this their first time they played was in 2002. That
Yeah,
was in Trenton. We were in Trenton for '02 and '03.
right.
Um, and I thought they played a second time, but maybe it wasn't. And maybe they also played a pre-show somewhere
I think
because
it was
Ken
a
and
pre-show.
Steve put on a pre-show, the two of them one time that we weren't affiliated with, but we helped promote. And I think they were part of that. I'd have to look
That's
it up.
exactly because I know I saw them like at like a bar or something or like a little club like
Yeah,
in town.
yeah, I can look that up because I have all this stuff on Wikipedia actually. So if I look up Myriador, so they played 2003. They played a pre-show. So you're right, it was in Trenton. So they played the main stage in '02 and a pre-show in '03. There you go.
And
You're
I
right.
think, and I'm trying to remember because they played with like an instrumental band, like a math rock band, and I forget the name of the band.
They played with Woodenhead and Is.
Oh wow, okay, that's not who I thought. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Woodenhead's
wouldn't
that
hit.
fusion band from New Orleans, right?
Yep, yeah, they're kind of Dregsy, kind of, sort of.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then Is, of course,
yeah,
symphonic prog from New York, New
yeah,
Jersey area. Yep.
yeah, very cool. Cool. All right, we're off to the races. My first pick today for number 9 is going to be the great Voivod. The album I've chosen there is Dimension Hatros, which I believe was their fourth album. Voivod's an interesting band. They started off as a very noisy, kind of like venomish extreme metal band with like thrash tendencies and maybe a little uh God, punk overtones and whatnot. But very first couple albums are very noisy, very extreme. Then with their third album, Killing Technology, they started to incorporate more thrash, sci-fi elements, and even little bits of prog. And then with this album, they go full bore kind of prog metal. Very quirky, very unique. There's nobody that sounds like Voivod. And in fact, they experimented with this kind of prog side on their next couple albums, and then they went back to more thrashy stuff. Still to this day, they're very experimental, very unique, very complex music, guitar tones like you've never heard before. Their late guitar player Piggy was one of the all-time greats, just such a really unique player that just very unconventional style. Great, great band. Love this album. I have it, but I just can't find it. It's in my closet of doom over here. So I figured,
That's a band that was always on my radar, but I never quite checked out. I always felt like, and all I have to do is put on the damn music and listen to it. But I felt like they were going to be just outside my wheelhouse. But um, would that be
you
the
might
one to
like this.
try?
I would say try this album and the album
Okay.
that comes after it. That's probably your best bet. And if this is kind of a little iffy for you, you won't like the rest of the catalog. But I think
Yeah.
you might like this. It's
All right.
very obviously they were very much influenced by Rush, so there is a Rush element in their sound, but it's a little more noisy and chaotic. Obviously, there's some King Crimson in there as well. You may or may not like the thrash influences, depends, but it's very
Right.
unique, different type of stuff. Real.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard all those things and I've never flicked the switch and tried it.
Yeah.
That's my fault. That's dumb.
Great guys too. I've hung out with the band. They're really really cool people and very very talented. I'm glad they're still kind of doing things today. It's just great. All right, so that's all I need to Prezi out for. So I'll switch back to real view. My number nine is going to be from Toronto, Ontario. The band is called Blood Ceremony. So this is a more recent band. I think they debuted probably in like 2005, 2006. They've got a handful of albums. This is Living with the Ancients, which is my favorite album by the band. How to describe these guys? If you kind of blend together Jethro Tull, because there's lots of flute in their music, Hammond organ, kind of like Deep Purple Uriah Heep, with like the darkness and the heaviness of like Coven and Black Sabbath. That's kind of what you get. Female vocals. She's really good. Her name is Aaliyah O'Brien. She also plays the organ and plays flute and sings. They have been, this is one explanation of what their music is like, flute tinged witch rock. Maybe, I don't
Okay.
know. Their music is absolutely fascinating. They have, over the course of their career, this is one of their earlier albums. The first album is really doomy. This is definitely more kind of doom meets prog rock meets like all this occult stuff. And their more recent albums are very retro 70s hard rock, acid rock, psychedelic rock type of thing. It's all really great. I still like this one the best. Just great epic tunes. And I just love the blending of like these Sabbath riffs, Jethro Tull flute, Deep Purple Hammond organ. Three of my favorite bands of all time, right? And then with the great female vocals on top. So yeah, Blood Ceremony is my next choice. And we're gonna go from there. I'm gonna go with the Guess Who. And I have chosen American Woman. I'm kind of late to the game with the Guess Who. I always have been a Bachman Turner Overdrive fan, and I always kind of dug the singles and whatnot from the Guess Who, but it wasn't until a few years ago I decided to really explore the catalog because Rick Labonte and I were talking about doing a album ranking, and that's usually the impetus to jump into a catalog that you don't know too well, or maybe that you know really well. And man, this band was great. So many great songs. Burton Cummings, such a great singer. Of course, you got Randy Bachman on the first couple albums on guitar, and this album has so many hits. It's got, No Time and the title track, obviously, and some, No Sugar Tonight. Just really, really great songs, and just a great, great Canadian band. Just good rock band, I guess you can call them, right? Because they do a lot of different things. Some of their stuff is a little folky, some of it's straight pop, some of it's hard rock. It's a little bit of everything. But yeah, the Guess Who is my pick number eight. Back to you.
That's a band I only knew their hits. And they never
And the
quite.
hits are great, but you know what? They have a lot of great deep cuts too. The hits are really great.
Yeah,
This is one of those
I
bands.
believe it.
Yeah,
It's one of those things I like their stuff, their radio stuff. I didn't like it enough to say, I'm going to buy an album.
yeah, yeah, I hear you.
All right, so we're doing 765. I'm gonna give you a little surprise. So my number seven, Sarah McLachlan.
Wow. Okay.
I have seen my wife turned me on to her after we got married. We would before we had kids and we had plenty of time. We would like play a board game or whatever in the basement. We had a DVD of one of her concerts, and we would throw that on, and uh, somehow I was mesmerized by it. And the album she was supporting at the time was this one called Afterglow.
That was a big one.
And I absolutely love this album. It's from 2003. Um, I've heard all of her stuff from the first album through, I guess, Laws of Illusion. I haven't really listened to the last two, and apparently she has a new one coming out. But we've seen her twice live, and her the experience of seeing her live is pretty amazing. She's got such a connection with her fan base. It's like a love in. It's amazing. I'm on the outside looking in from that stuff, but her band is phenomenal. Her voice is great. She seems like an unbelievably sweet person, but she's a great songwriter and performer. And you know, if you're interested in her music at all, Afterglow is a great way to dive in. And yes, the great Tony Levin is on Afterglow. So there you go. He's on a few songs. Um, I think he's on the first song, Fallen, which is amazing. World on Fire, Stupid, Push, Answer, Trainwreck. The whole thing's great. So um, that's my number seven. Figured I'd throw you a little bit of a loop. I didn't
It's
think you'd
okay.
expect that one.
That's all right.
And number six, we just talked about this guy at length, and we both love him, and that's Mr. Kim Mitchell. We just did an album ranking about 2 months ago or so with Eric Porter, and dove deep into his catalog. And my number one from him is Oral Fixations, despite the cover.
Yeah, it's terrible.
There's a lot of great songs on this album. Um, he's known for things like Go for Soda and things like that. But Oral Fixations had some big hits on the radio up in Canada, like World's Such a Wonder, America, Find the Will. Pure as Gold, I think, was released as a single. Um, just a great album through and through. But Kim Mitchell's an underrated guitar player. We talked about how he never broke into this country. He's such a good songwriter, great voice. Like I said, great guitar player. Um, and if you don't know, he was the singer and guitar player for Max Webster, which may show up on this list later. But my number six is is Kim Mitchell.
Cool. Yeah, more
Wait,
on
I got number five, don't I?
that's right. Yeah, I was gonna say I thought you had one more
That's
left.
only two. Hey, guess what? There's Max Webster. I
There you
found it.
go.
Yeah, so my number five is Max Webster. You know, uh, great mix of prog and hard rock and humor and some, just all out wackiness at times. My favorite is High Class and Borrowed, or not, is Million Vacations. All their albums are great. But Million Vacations has the title track. It's got Paradise Skies, Night Flights, which is one of my favorite. Let Go of the Line, Research at Beach Resorts. I mean, what a great song title. That almost sounds like it should be a Jimmy Buffett title, but it's not even close to a Jimmy Buffett song. Um, they're also known for Battle Scar, which was a duet, a full band duet with Rush, which is great. And to this day, I think Kim Mitchell still plays that live sometimes. Um, but Max Webster, one of the great Canadian rock bands, prog rock bands, whatever you want to call them, because they almost defy description, but
True. Yeah.
pretty great band. So Max Webster, number five.
How was Paradise Skies not a hit? I
Oh
never
my God, yeah.
understand that. Yeah. I think Max Webster's problem, and I'm going to talk, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about them in a little bit. I think that they were just too quirky and different and too hard to put into a box.
Yeah.
And that was kind of their issue because they were hard rock, they were prog, they were pop, they were quirky Zappa type stuff. I mean, that's all this weird stuff together, and it's like you never knew where you were going to go with any of their songs or their albums. But a lot of us love that about them. But I think for like mass appeal, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even something like what was it? Let Go the Line was on the radio, which is almost like an AM soft rock type hit.
Yeah,
And then you turn around with like a 2 minute smoker like Check from Universal Juveniles. You're like, that seems like it was something they did in the studio and just threw together, and it kicks ass.
yeah, yeah.
But as they say, we're just musicians here to thin the thickness of your skin.
That's right. That's it. And they didn't really look the part either, right? They didn't have that rock.
No, no. The back cover of, is it High Class and Borrowed Shoes, or the front cover? Woof.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The ladies are not going to be listening to Max Webster or buying their album.
No, they're not. And if there's one out there, God bless you.
Yes, exactly. All right, my next choice is going to be April Wine. And I'm going to go with Nature of the Beast, which is this bad boy up at the top here. So I got into this band with that album, and I remember this is one of those albums, Chad, for a young metal guy, in the early 80s, you go into a record store and you see that album cover. I think I might have even seen it in like Hit Parader magazine or two beforehand. Like, oh, that's got to be a really, really heavy album. There's this guy with like a lion's mask on, scorching guitar, drums behind him. It's got to be great. And then you get it and you're kind of like, all right, it's maybe not that heavy. It's pretty rocking, but the songs are great. And
Is that correct? Gypsy Queen, or is that Angel?
that's on here. No, that's on here.
So that's April Wine. Yeah, okay.
which is actually a cover, believe it or not, right?
Is it really? I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
know
a cover. I forget who actually originally did it, but it's a cover. But it's also got "Just Between You and Me," which was the big hit on the
that. Oh
album.
yeah,
That's
that's that's kind of yacht rocky.
little bit, yeah, a little bit. Great guitar solo, but on here also has All Over Town and Telling Me Lies and Wanna Rock and Big City Girls, Caught in the Crossfire is really good. It's actually a pretty rocking album. It's not a metal album by any means, but it's pretty rocking. But from there, you have all these other albums to discover, and they were a very, very, other than this album, they didn't really do much of anything here, but they were pretty successful up in Canada, and I would argue they have a whole bunch of albums in the 70s and early 80s that would appeal to any hard rock fan. A lot of really good stuff. Just for folks watching, it's not on this album, but go listen to the song Roller. What a killer, killer track. So good. But yeah, really, really good band that deserved better here anyway. And we just lost one of their main members real recently. So we've got to, I'm not really sure what the band is doing, if anything, these days. But yeah, and they've been fairly active for many years, even though like the end of their successful run kind of was like in the mid 80s. But yeah, great band though, nonetheless.
Sign of the Gypsy Queen was a song written and first recorded by, you'll never, I don't know how you forgot this name, Pete, Lawrence Hudd, of
Oh, of course.
course.
Yeah.
So there you go. He's the original.
I'm not even like curious to go and listen to the original version because
No,
it's good.
no, no. I don't think I'm going to dive in. We're not going to do an album ranking of Lawrence Hudd anytime
No,
soon.
no, no need, I don't think. No need. All right, my next one, which this is what pick six, is Saga. And I'm gonna go with Images in Twilight, which probably is my favorite Saga album. It's really good. They have a lot of great albums. This is another one of those head scratcher bands that's like, why wasn't this band enormous here in the States? Fairly big back home, enormous in Germany.
Yeah,
Didn't translate here for whatever reason.
they came close, almost on the
Yeah,
loose.
worlds apart, but then they couldn't follow it up with it's, I don't know. And I honestly think that there's plenty to love on this record, which came out before Worlds Apart.
Mm-hmm.
Weird band though, because like mixing like progressive rock and like new wave and hard rock, if not metal, because Ian's guitar work is close to metal on some of this stuff.
Yeah,
But again, maybe a little too quirky for some people. I don't know, but great synth work, great guitars, really catchy songs. I mean, on here it's got, You're Not Alone should have been a hit. Mouse in the Maze is so good. It's time. You got the chapter stuff, which is very intricately woven throughout all their albums, telling a story, like a concept story, but across like their entire catalog. So I wonder what they were thinking when they first started doing that. It's like, how long are we going
yeah,
to keep this going for? And they did it throughout their whole career.
yeah. And to put a live album out where they play them all in sequential order.
I know, which was really cool. I have that. That's
Yeah,
so cool. It took them forever to do that, but very, very cool. And I love the album cover on this. I always thought it was just absolutely,
yeah.
but yeah,
I
really,
was
really great band.
their what do you call whatever the insect
Yes.
always reminded me of. Remember the old Atari 2600 game Yar's Revenge?
Oh yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, always reminded me of the Yar.
Yeah. It's kind of like a sort of like a grasshopper, but kind of like a fire
Dragonfly kind of thing.
dragonfly type of weird hybrid or something. I don't know. Very
Yeah, and the first album looks a little bit more like a moth.
Yes. Yeah. It kind of morphed a
Yeah.
little bit over the years. So, but very, very cool. And then my final pick for this round, number five, I'm going to go with Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush. God, I could have picked any album. I'm going to go with Mahogany Rush 4. Frank Marino is one of my favorite guitar players of all time. He's so good. Great singer too. And this band is kind of, he gets tagged with this whole like kind of Jimi Hendrix copycat type of thing. But I think his music is a lot more than that. It's funky, it's bluesy. There's certainly lots of hard rock here. It's jazzy in spots. An amazing, amazing guitar player, like one of the early, early shredders. And this has got classic tracks on here. I'm Going Away is great on here. The Answer is great. Speaking of Dragonfly, one of my favorite tracks by him is called Dragonfly. Moonwalk is terrific on here. That's just amazing, amazing record. What a guitar tone. What a player, what a singer, and a really groovy band too. So Mahogany Rush is my pick number five.
All right. So up to 4-3-2. Let's go right back to Saga for my number four. I'm gonna pick Worlds Apart. It was the
Yeah.
first one I heard. First time I saw the video for On the Loose on MTV. I loved it. But it's a solid album. It's a bit of a change from the first three. a little more polished, I guess. Is it Rupert Hine produces this one?
Yeah.
There's a story I read somewhere that Rupert Hine wanted to get a different urgency out of Michael Sadler's voice and made him sing some of these songs from a rooftop, and he was scared of heights. I don't know why I read that. I don't know if it's true. It's kind of a fun story if it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Strange request.
yeah, but Worlds Apart, great album. On the Loose, Wind 'Em Up, Time's Up. Um, I've always liked this album a lot. I could have picked The Security of Illusion. I actually like that album a lot. Songs like Mind Over Matter, Once Is Never Enough. Um, well, there's another Without You, the song that ends this album is killer. Um, and that actually followed The Beginner's Guide to Throwing Shapes, which is really soft and
Yeah.
not a very good album.
No, I think that album stalled their career big time.
Yeah, Wildest, I mean, Behavior is okay. Wildest Dreams is okay. Throwing Shapes is lousy.
Yeah.
Um, and then they really went kind of off the rails, even though I really like it, is Generation 13.
Good album.
Um,
Yeah, it's very
yeah,
different.
it's very strange, but I like it. There's a lot of cool riffs and themes on that, but it's a really odd album for Saga. And then the rest of their catalog, there's a lot of solid stuff on there. One that I liked was Trust.
Justice
Um,
Marathon is really good. Yeah, that's
the first song, That's As Far As I'll Go. That's a great song. But yeah, great band. Like you said, they started off in that prog meets 80s kind of thing, and then kind of embraced more of the 80s stuff as they went, and then they kind of morphed back into a little bit of a harder thing. But Saga, great band, good catalog. So number three, you can probably guess my next three, but my number three is Honeymoon Suite, and mostly on the power of strength of this album, The Big Prize from 1986. This album, from beginning to end, is melodic hard rock gold. There's not a song on here that isn't great. Derry Gray, and the guitar player, is very underrated. He's an amazing player. Um, Johnny D's is a very good singer. The two of them are good songwriters. Um, they again another one. It was right on the verge of breaking into the U.S. Um, People knew um, New Girl Now from their first album. They won like a Battle of the Bands competition from IOQ and Toronto, and I'm sorry, Q107, and that put them on the map. And then they got together with Bruce Fairbairn and put out The Big Prize in '86. Ian Anderson's even on it playing a flute on one song. One of these songs got on a soundtrack. What Does It Take was on the soundtrack for the John Cusack movie, One Crazy Summer. Um, their next album had a song called Lethal Weapon, which was the closing credits song from the first Lethal Weapon movie. The song was actually written by Michael Kamen, but Honeymoon Suite uh, performed it. But their catalog, and these guys are still around, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. I'll say 7.5 albums because two of them overlap. And there's EP, a couple live albums, a couple best ofs. But if you like melodic rock, these guys are going to be in your wheelhouse. And absolutely start with The Big Prize. It is a killer album. It sounds great. The songs are amazing. And I never get tired of it. I recently found it on vinyl, and my wife and I sat down here and listened to it. And even for a piece of vinyl coming out in '86, it was freaking great. It was awesome.
And I have to thank Chad for getting me into the band. And actually, we are doing a ranking the album show of Honeymoon Suite at the end of the month, so don't miss that, everybody.
Yep. And then number two, this won't be a surprise either, is Triumph. Uh, so I think I've mentioned it before. Some of my first musical loves uh, came about because of MTV, and Triumph got a lot of spin on MTV in the early days.
Oh yeah.
Um, a lot of songs from Allied Forces. Lay It on the Line was on there. Um, and even maybe a song from Never Surrender here and there. I don't remember, but a lot of Allied Forces. Um, and I think the only cassette I ever bought mail order was Allied Forces. Like I couldn't go to the mall and buy it. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, my favorite album from them is Thunder 7. from '85. This is probably the most artistic of their albums, if I can use that. Allied Forces is great, but it's heavier. This is still plenty heavy. Songs like Spellbound and Follow Your Heart, but the second side gets a little more artistic. And from what I've read, this is a time when Gilmore and Mike Levine were in New York City, um, dealing with a lawsuit they had with MCA or RCA Records, whatever. I think it was RCA Records. And Rick was left back in Mississauga to work on the new album. So he wrote most of the album by himself. And so you get a lot more of that artisticness because it's mostly Rick. So that's probably why I like it. I'm a big Rick Emmett fan. I think he's one of the best rock guitar players that ever played. And his voice was unbelievable.
Yeah, I always loved his voice.
Yeah. So yeah, Triumph is absolutely my number two. And I've been a big fan since I was, I don't know, 12 years old. And my biggest concert regret is I never got to see them.
Wow, never did, huh?
Yep. I became of concert age right after the Sport of Kings tour.
Okay.
And they did 2, 3, 4, 5 shows for Surveillance, and Rick left. So I never got to see them. I've seen Rick a few times, but never got to see Triumph. And it's it's a pencil in the heart.
Now you're gonna hate me in a couple of minutes with some
Yeah,
story.
yeah, yeah. I'll listen.
My number three is Max Webster. Everything you already said. Yeah,
Oh, there's the cover.
yeah, there's the cover. I mean, yeah. Oof. I mean, even look at them on the back. It's just like, yeah, they're not looking like typical rock stars. But yeah,
No, and
but musically so good. I mean, I'm way late to the game with Max Webster. I didn't start listening to them until probably like a decade and a half ago. I did not listen to them back in the day. Never got to see them. All those times they opened up for Rush was a little bit before I started going to see Rush. And by the time I was seeing Rush, they were playing in the big arenas, and Max Webster wasn't along for the ride on those. But love their music, love the quirkiness of it. I like the fact that it does all sorts of different things, even though some people might not like that. And I love this album. I mean, the title track is so good. Diamonds, Diamonds is great.
Mhm.
America's Veins, Oh War on the Road. I mean, it's all the context of the moon is terrific. And
Oh
I
yeah.
love Kim's guitar playing. I love his vocals too. I love his solo career too. I didn't want to put both of them in here, but I kind of prefer the Max Webster band a little bit more over his solo catalog, but I love that too. So that's my pick number three. And I'm sorry, number four. Pick number three is Triumph. So I saw them on the Allied Forces tour.
Oh
It was one of the first, I think it was the fourth concert I ever saw, something like that. This was in 81, right? So
yeah.
yeah, it was very early on. It was in the first five shows I ever saw. I saw them and Saxon at the
Wow.
Palladium in New York City. And I had never heard a lick of Saxon's music at the time because they were fairly new here in the States. And I thought they were amazing. And then Triumph came on. They had the light show and everything. It was great. Um, and Allied Forces was the first album I bought from them. I bought this and then I immediately went and got Progressions of Power and the first two. And I remember thinking like Blinding Light Show was like one of the greatest songs ever at the time. I was like, wow, it's amazing. But I love this album. I saw them, I think, four times.
Oh,
And after the show at the Palladium, which is a smaller place, every other time I saw them was in a big hockey arena, like 15, 18,000 seater. They were always great. I love this album. Fool for Your Love is great. What again, this band does like one of the things that I really like about a lot of my bands is when you have like two singers in the band. So you get
mhm.
that variety and both voices sound completely different. So, Gil doesn't sound anything like Rick. And you're right. I think Rick does a little bit of more of the artsy stuff,
Mhm.
although some of the bangers too. But Gil, you can always count on to do the heavier rock stuff. And yeah, there's everything on here. Magic Power is a great single. The title track, Allied Forces, is so good. Fight the Good Fight is one of my
Mhm.
favorite Triumph songs. It's amazing. But then you got Ordinary Man, which is
That's
great.
a phenomenal song.
Oh,
Very underrated.
so good. And they even played the local FM rock radio around here. They played Say Goodbye on the radio quite a bit. And I always was hoping that would get pushed as a single. Never
That was
really.
on MTV all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that would have done better than it did, but still a great album. That's my number three. And my
Have you
number
ever
two.
have you ever noticed, by the way, how similar Gilmore's voice sounds to Mickey Hart of Starship?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think Mickey can probably get a little higher, but when they're
Ken,
doing
yes,
more the mid range, it's very similar.
yes.
Yeah, very similar. That guy can sing too.
Oh
Oof.
yeah, still can sing.
Oh, so good. All right, my number two band. Got to have some lumbering meat and potatoes heavy rock on this list. Bachman Turner Overdrive. I've loved them forever. I love this band. So many great albums. I'm going to go with Not Fragile. I mean, this is just big, heavy Canadian rock, big power chords. Great vocals. Again, you got the two singers. I always kind of liken BTO as kind of like the Canadian version of ZZ Top. You got the two singers. One has the sweeter voice, one's got the rough voice. Same thing here. And yeah, so many great songs on here. The title track is so good. It's got Roll On Down the Highway. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet is on here. Then the big heavy things like Sledgehammer and Rock Is My Life and This Is My Song. Giving It All Away. That's great. Love them. BTO. So much fun. So many great albums. And let's talk about the greatest Canadian band of all time.
Well, number one, of course, for both of us is going to be Rush.
Yes.
What else could it be?
And I'm going to go with Moving Pictures.
And I'm going to cheat because I'm not picking a favorite album, and I'm just going to put that up there.
Got to throw them all in
I
there,
can't
right?
do it. It's like
Yeah,
picking your favorite child. Can't do it.
I know. I know. Yeah, I mean, so it's funny. It's not every day you come across a band like a rock band that just like means so much to so many people. Um, People talk about Rush in a different light than they talk about other like big bands of the last like 50, 60 years. I don't know what it is. It's like I think they're like the ultimate people's band, even though all three guys are kind of shy and, never really.
They're like the world's most famous cult band in a way.
Yeah, because they
Everybody thought
never.
it was their secret, but then everybody felt the same way.
Yeah. It's like I don't know about you, but like when I read Getty's book, I was, he's telling all the behind the scenes stories of the drinking and the pot and the hash and the cocaine and all that kind of stuff. And you're thinking, wait a second, but this is Rush. They didn't do all those things
Right.
because
I
they
was so
never
disappointed.
portrayed. Yeah, it's like they never to me. I was always like, this is the cool band that would go after the gig. They would go and maybe smoke a joint and read their book and hang out and quiet and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right, maybe they weren't quite that, but they were like one of us, I think, and they weren't the crazy mythological rock star people, right? And it's
Yeah.
just I think that we all felt that way about them. And I think like now, anytime like I'll be quite frank, talking to Alex Lifeson a couple of weeks ago was like the highlight of any of this music stuff I've ever done. And
I
I'm
can't believe you didn't invite me to co-host that. I'm very hurt by that.
and just such a cool dude. I would love to talk to Getty. How I think back on how pained we all were when Neil passed away, right? I mean, that hit all of
Oh yeah.
us really
Oh
hard.
yeah.
And that's this band. I mean, they're so special and their music has a little something for everybody. It's like, it's one of those catalogs where you listen to it from the very, very first album to the very last album, and it just takes you on a journey. And as you're going through the journey, things are going to change up a little bit for a
Mhm.
couple albums, and then they're going to change up again. Then they're
Yep.
going to change up again. And in between all those changes, there's a live album, right? And whether you think of them as a prog band or a hard rock band or a whatever, right? Because they did a lot of different things. It's all Rush music, and it's all pretty great. We
And
prefer
nothing
some albums over.
and throughout all those things, they always sounded like themselves,
Yeah,
which is an odd thing to say because you think like, oh, well, the band sounds like this. Well, they never sounded like this more than two albums in a row.
right.
You can't compare, even the Grace Under Pressure to Hold Your Fire. Completely different. And then two albums later, you're up to what? Roll the Bones. That sounds nothing like Hold Your Fire.
But it still sounds like Rush.
Still sounds like Rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very special band. They've been my favorite band since you know before I was a teenager, probably 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Um, the license plate on my car has been Rush related since I was 17. So
How cool.
yeah, it's been 2112 AD for a long time.
There you go. I've always loved him. I think I I appreciate them even more now as I'm getting older. And I think I appreciate because I went through a period where some of the 80s stuff was kind of like I was like, it's kind of light. It's too many synths. I like heavier stuff. But I think now, all these years later, I really appreciate the whole catalog for what it is. I mean, I have my favorite albums, right? And some there I like less than others, but I think I can appreciate all of it a lot better now. And it just the whole catalog has aged really well.
Yeah,
Even though,
I
you
would
listen
agree.
to something like as kind of baby Rush as the first album, right? You compare that to the more complicated things they would do later, or certainly the more produced stuff that they would do in the 80s. It's like you said, it's still Rush. It's just different eras of Rush. And
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand why people that, picked up with them in the 70s or even with moving pictures, when they got into that 80s phase and you got more keyboards, they were like, oh, this isn't the same thing. Yeah, I get that. Where I come in, unfortunately, I missed some live shows because of my age, Triumph. Um, I came into Rush, I guess technically with moving pictures, but I was of the, like I said before, of the MTV era. So I grew up with a lot of Euro synth stuff on there, like your Duran Durans and the Fix, and name your one hit wonders. Um, so I was not as appalled by some of those sounds coming into this band because that's what I was listening to anyway.
yeah, and
And
you
I'm
coming into the catalog right around the time of like Signals and Grace Under Pressure and all those albums. So to you,
right.
it's like it's no big deal, right?
Yeah, and Hold Your Fire was the first album I bought the day it was released. I remember running out to the Springfield Mall, close to where I grew up, going down to Sam Goody and getting that cassette on day one, and um, you know, loving it. I still love Hold Your Fire. I know a lot of people absolutely despise that album, and I get it. It's not me. I like it. I like it a lot, minus Taishan.
No. And I've spoken to people who jumped on board with Rush for that album or the one or the two that came before it and have an issue with the earlier stuff because it's too heavy and Geddy's voice is too shrieky. So I've heard
Yeah,
that too, right? So it all
yeah,
depends on when you kind of came in with the band. And I know plenty of people who they swear by the first album, maybe the next two, and then they don't like all the rest of the stuff. It's just like
yeah.
first album is the best album. I'm like, okay, they were never the same. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, I know that I've certainly met some people that they don't go past maybe Farewell to Kings.
yeah,
Or some people say Farewell to Kings is where they peaked. Yeah, Moving Pictures was good, and anything past Signals, they're like, forget it, they're dead to me.
yeah.
And yeah, hey, everybody has their own tastes, and people can be wrong, and that's okay.
I know, I know. So yeah, so Rush is our favorites. Both of us, Canadian band. Obviously, no surprise there. We kind of prefaced this whole show with that. You got any honorable mentions you want to kind
Yeah,
of
I
go
guess there's some
through?
bands that we should certainly mention. Looking at our master list here, speaking of one-hit wonders, hopefully Canadians don't shoot me for this, but Red Rider with Lunatic Fringe. That was a huge song here.
Definitely
And
was.
even later on, Tom Cochrane had Life is a Highway, which was massive. It got remade for the Disney's Cars movie and was, a bestseller all over again. I'm sure Tom Cochrane had no problem with that. Aldo Nova with Fantasy. I remember loving that song. Him taking his Les Paul and shooting the laser out and opening the stage door. Always loved that song. Chilliwack, My Girl, Gone, Gone, Gone. It's maybe borderline yacht rock. It shows up on XM on there every once in a while, but I always love that song. Somewhere back here, I have Chilliwack's Greatest Hits CD, and
Why not?
yes, it's more than two songs.
Yeah.
Um, and let's see, Brian Adams, multi-platinum seller. You
Yep.
can't not mention him. Um, the Tragically Hip, and you and I talked about this. Respect the legacy. People I know absolutely love them. Can't get into them. I
Yeah,
tried.
they don't
I
do anything.
tried in the last few weeks after you and I talked about it again. And some of the songs are cool. I don't love Gord Downey's voice. Rest in peace. Um, he's okay. Uh, but there's just something missing. I couldn't quite latch onto them. But I wouldn't turn them off if they were on, but it's not something I'm like, you know what? Those songs are good. I'm going to go buy that album. It's not quite there.
Yeah.
But but I will say for the discussion, great band, massive in Canada.
Yeah, oh, for sure. For sure.
Um, Got to mention Loverboy. They were huge in
You
the
do have to
80s.
mention Loverboy. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I have a greatest hits of them. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but I
Yeah.
used to listen to Loverboy. Terrible name, but they were a good band at one point.
Very good live band too.
That's
Still
what
to
I've
this
heard.
day.
Yeah. And one that I put on the list late, and there was one song I just loved by this band. The band was called The Pursuit of Happiness, and they had this song called Cigarette Dangles. I saw it on some alternative MTV show one time, kind of a goofy video with things, scenes swapping in and out real quickly. And I just thought it was a fun, quirky song. And I bought the album used one time. It's a pretty good album. I would say that's Cigarette Dangles is still my favorite on it. It's a pretty good album. They're all good players. There's a male singer. There's a female singer. She's great. So if you're looking something new to check out The Pursuit of Happiness. Cool
Cool.
band.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they're the ones I would certainly want to call out. There's this one band. I'm not going to say their name out loud. Maybe you will. But what's your thought on some honorables?
Some honorables. Well, I do want to throw out Honeymoon Suite because they didn't quite make my top 10 because I'm still kind of new to them, but I'm loving what I'm hearing from them. So I wanted to mention them. I thought I grabbed the album, one of the CDs, but I didn't. But I want to throw Coney Hatch out there. We just did an album ranking here on the channel. Coney Hatch, another great short-lived Canadian band. I do want to mention Moxie, great 70s hard rock band. Kind of if you like Montrose, I think you'll dig Moxie. This is the debut album. Tommy Bolin actually plays guitar solos on a couple tracks on here because he was in the studio
Cool.
next door, and he helped out the band there. Very, very cool. I'm going to go Annihilator, very cool thrash band, been around forever. Alice in Hell is their debut album. That's one of my favorites. Great band. I do want to mention Exciter, speed metal band, and their debut Heavy Metal Maniacs, one of my favorites, but all their albums are really, really good. What else? I'm going to throw him out, even though I talked to you about it before we taped. I normally would have picked him in my top 10, but then I was thinking the Pat Travers band, he's the only Canadian. And I know like it's just been like Pat Travers forever. And he, like I said, he is Canadian. But to me, like the Pat Travers band from the 70s was one of the great bands of all time, but it was not a Canadian band. You had Pat Travers, you had Mars Cowling was British, you had Tommy Aldridge was American, you had Pat Thrall was American. So not really a Canadian band, but Pat Travers is one of the great Canadian artists of all time. So I do want to mention him because he's one of my favorite guitar players of all time. And what else?
Well, you just mentioned Pat Thrall. That's two shows in a row with substitute Asia guitar players being mentioned.
Yes, that's true. Path Raw, that's right. So if you want to know what Chad's talking about, we taped Proxy before this one. So we mentioned Asia's third album.
Mandy Meyer
Randy
came on.
Myers, yeah, played on that in place of Steve Howe. What else? Devin Townsend, I do want to mention him, another great Canadian artist, does prog, does metal, progressive metal, that sort of thing. Gore Guts, great technical death metal band. And yeah, Lighthouse, another really good jazz rock band, a horn band.
Oh,
Helix,
Harmonium. Yeah, forgot about them.
yeah, great, really great band.
Really good.
Helix, very good hard rock metal band. We got prog bands, Harmonium, right? Excellent, excellent band. Menage. So there's lots of stuff. Uzeb, the great fusion band. So yeah, lots of bands. Those are some of our additional favorites here. But
And
if
you can't forget Bob and Doug.
Bob and Doug, there you go.
Great White North album.
That's right. So a lot of really cool music coming from Canada. I'm sure there's others that we did not mention that might be your favorites watching, folks. So down in the comments below, list your 10 favorite Canadian bands or artists of all time. And we
Yeah.
want to thank everybody for joining us here today on this. We've been trying to do this show for a couple of weeks now. We finally said, all right, got to do it. Got to do it. But Canada, I mean, a lot of great music from Canada and obviously a
Yeah.
lot of bands that we
And
really,
if there are bands up there that haven't crossed the border that we should know about, let us know.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because we love discovering new stuff. Like, I didn't mention Anvil and Gatto and Big Wreck and
I, I could have
Arcade
mentioned
Fire.
Frozen Ghost and Arnold Lane, or
Yeah,
I think that's what his name was. But Frozen Ghost had a couple good albums.
yeah. Even the dreaded Nickelback is from Canada, right?
Oh, there's the word I didn't want to say.
Yeah, yeah. Throw that out last, right? Because we go, but you, Pete, you guys didn't mention Nickelback. Well, we just did. Maybe not in a great light, but they are forgettable. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn
All the damn time, eh?
That's right. So for more on Canadian bands, like I mentioned, join Chad and myself and Grant Arthur and Rich Catino. We'll be ranking the albums of Honeymoon Suite in just a couple of weeks. So that's coming at you at the end of the month. Stay tuned for that. We'll see Chad then. And till then, have a good one, everybody. For Chad Hutchinson, I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.